What Loch number is it today? Loch number 7. So we stayed at Cool last night and now we're driving up to the Spizzle of Glenshee and it is pouring with rain. So it's going to get very wet. Woohoo! So we have arrived at the Spizzle of Glenshee and the sun's come out, so we're just going to get our kit on and start heading up the valley. It looks like it's going to be a Land Rover track until the last little bit where there's like more of a steep climb, but apparently there's a path the whole way to the loch. So it's going to be hopefully a bit easier today, but we'll see what happens. Let's get on the bikes. Today we're on day number 7 and we didn't manage to recover all the GoPro footage, so we're actually going to speak about how the day went.
So when we arrived at the Spizzle of Glenshee, we had another look at the map and it seemed pretty clear and simple navigation because it was just up a track and then up a long valley all the way up to the top of the loch. What I wasn't certain about is whether it was going to be a Land Rover track or whether it was going to be a single track in some of the sections, and it turned out that the first 2 sections were fields full of sheep, and one of the big things we had to try and avoid was cycling through sheep poo because it stuck to your tyres, and then when you got faster all the sheep poo would come flying off and you'd have to be very careful or you end up with getting a mouthful of sheep poo. That wasn't so good. Then we made our way up the valley and the track was pretty well defined, drivable, but it was that chunky stone where you were bouncing about all the time, so it was quite hard on the shoulders because we were still carrying fairly heavy rucksacks. And we got to the top of the valley, which was quite a long cycle, met quite a few hill walkers in groups coming down the valley, and then we stashed the bikes and it was a steady climb and quite steep up to the lip of the loch.
It was quite fun going on the last little bit because just before where the loch was, it was kind of zigzagging up and it was kind of like almost like you had to climb over and the little streams coming down, so it was actually quite fun. But again, it was one of these things going, right, when we get to the top, is the loch actually going to be there? Because pretty much every single time that we've done a loch, it's never usually been exactly where we thought it was going to be.
The loch itself is up at the top of the walk. What was nice this time was we didn't have to actually climb down to the loch at all. So at the highest point,
right there,
that's where the loch was, right at the highest point. I could see from the contour lines that was going to be the case, but you always doubt yourself when you're walking up and you can't see the actual loch until you come over the brow of the hill, and there it is sitting there. And by that time the sun was out and it was actually looking pretty nice.
For some reason I was not enjoying the day at all. We were tired, and yes, we were on day number 7, but we technically still had 7, 8, 9, 10, so we still had 4 more lochs to do, and that's quite challenging because you've just passed the halfway mark, but you still got quite a lot of work to do.
There were gulls flying about, and there was also, it looked like crows flying around as well, making that ominous, creepy kind of horror movie type sound. So maybe that was adding to the atmosphere that was spooking Corley a little bit that day. Because
I thought if there are birds here, there must be fish or other creatures in here.
Well, there was fish, and there's been fish, I think, in all the lochs we've been in, because you see the ripples and you see movement in the water, but I don't think there's any spooky fish or fish with big teeth.
Well, we didn't know that. It was pretty cold, actually, because I remember us getting to the other side and going, right, let's just go.
And when we finished the swim, we got changed pretty quickly because it was quite cold by the time we got back out. Really simple navigation because it was just straight down the valley, find the bikes, and then straight back. Avoid the sheep poop at the end because we didn't want to put all the sheep poop into the van, but we had to wash them by the time we got back home because we couldn't avoid it, although we did our best. And it was kind of nice to get the day finished because we knew there was going to be 3 more fairly big days ahead.
And we knew that people were definitely going to be there.
Yeah, it was good because we were able to actually get off the hill at a reasonable time, unlike the other days that we'd had before. So it meant that we could get back home, get some food, and try and get ourselves organised and prepared for the last 3 days ahead.
So in conclusion?
We got it done.
And there was lots of sheep poop.
And there was a lot of sheep poo.